Hey, free timers, 10 years from now, will you be where you actually want to be? Most people drift, but you don't have to. In this episode, I'll give you a simple framework that helps you design your next decade with intention instead of regret. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast, where you can learn how to rethink your work and your money to create a life you love right now. Join us for insights to help you find meaningful freedom so you can choose how and when and with whom you work for as long as you want. Here are your hosts, me, Brian Herriot, and Kirby Denison.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Time Freedom Podcast. I am Kirby Denison, the owner and founder of Kirby & Co. And I have today our main host, Brian, author of Time Freedom, our financial advisor, and all things amazingness. And Brian,
You're too kind.
What's been going on?
So today we get to do a really fun exercise that I hope you'll do with us at home too, or if you're driving or running on a treadmill or something, you think about until you can get to some paper where you can write these things down. But what, I would just, there's so many life visioning exercises out there. I think millions, not millions, probably thousands. And I've done a lot of them, everything from New Year's resolutions to, all of the various things out there. There's many of them. I refer to them in the book. There's just so many I can't even mention. But what I've done in this part of the book is to take kind of what I think are the best pieces of all of these different strategies for how to envision your life and put them together into a framework where we can actually go through the process. And I call it the look back, look ahead life design process. And what we'll do is kind of walk through it for ourselves so you can see how this works. And then also so then that, you can do it for yourself as well. And I think a lot of times this comes down to the question that people often ask, which is like, should I pursue something in life for, because it'll make money? Or should I pursue, professionally what I love? And I don't actually have a good answer for that. I think the life design process is really thinking beyond just work. So if you do have to just do work to make money, ideally there are people in your life and places that you live that make, that it falls in the I love category. And so that's why we want to look at it holistically. So that's where we're going here today.
Yay. I'm excited to I don't know, it's always fun to go down memory lane a little bit and then also look at your aspiring goals for the upcoming however many years.
I wanted to ask you, are you doing what you wanted to be when you grow up? If you think back?
Absolutely not. I quickly learned, so I always had either wanted to be a doctor or a vet. I quickly learned I wanted to be a neonatal nurse specifically. Then I remember that I don't like to live in the city because there's too many people. Obviously, that's why I live in the middle of nowhere. And then I went to a summer camp actually, and I was in the NICU at the CU Research Hospital in Denver. And I was in the NICU and there was a little baby smaller than my hand, which I don't have big hands. If you're watching YouTube, you can see. He was so tiny. And yeah, I don't know. My husband has huge hands. And they were putting a IV in his arm and they blew the IV or the veins in the arm, his legs. So they had to put one in his head. And I was like, oh, nope, I can't do this. I'm out. So I was like, I'll be a different kind of nurse. As I mentioned before, I was a CNA, and that's how I paid through college, actually. But I saw my first bed sore, and I definitely knew I couldn't do trauma or anything like that. So I was like, I'm switching my major and switched to vet. I worked for a vet, and he told me, you have to be okay with kind of being in debt between the cost of vet school. And then he owned his own practice, actually. And he was like, every time you kind of think you're getting ahead, then it's like you have to update machinery or the ultrasound machine will go down or the technology changes. And it's changing so rapidly, it's hard to keep up. I mean, as we know, in just general. And so I was like, yeah, I'm also not okay with. So have a nice expensive piece of paper that I don't use my degree with.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I kind of am in the same boat. My issue is that I never really was much of a think ahead person. And so if you were to say, what do you want to be? I'd be like, I don't know. Just what do I need to do tomorrow? And I'll do that. So my experience though is looking, again, this is kind of leads into a little bit about why I've devised this method is where I've looked back on things that I've done in my life in school, college, work, and go, that was interesting, and I wish I would have pursued that or not. And the example that I share in the book is that when I look back at high school, so I'm an engineer, right? Science, math person. Like that's what I went to college for. Maybe because I was able to do it, so I just did it. But when I look back at like high school, some of the most wonderful things, well, they weren't, me being terrible on the sports teams. They were actually me in the theater and choir and forensics, which is like speech and debate. Some of my best memories are from that. So I was in all these different plays in high school. I was Jacob Marley in A Christmas Carol. I was in all these like comical farce type plays. The thought, my really good friend Tyler, like my one main friend that I still have from high school, was right there beside me. He actually went into theater and is now, in charge of the theater department at University of Wisconsin Stevens Point. He kind of did it, and I didn't. I don't necessarily, think one way is better or another. It's just interesting, and so I like to, think. That's why it's important to think back, to think ahead to what you want to do going forward.
Yeah, I was absolutely in the same space of like, I mean, even up until recently, like looking ahead, it was definitely you're like just stuck in the day to day. And before I started my business, I was absolutely in like, oh, you just wake up, go to work, spend time with your kids at home at night, and then you just keep doing that until you retire. And until I found my business or started my business, I didn't really, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like in America, and especially small town America, we kind of are almost sheltered. And so you don't explore around and see like what else is out there, what else is there to do. And so very similar, like I think that's always why I wanted to be a doctor or a nurse or a veterinarian is like, A, I knew that you could make money. B, it was like people thought I needed to do big things. So that's what I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just do it. But there's so much more.
Yeah. And what I loved about the theater and stuff was I love the idea of people clapping for you. And it's just exhilarating, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not that kind of person, but that needs that. But it's kind of exciting. And I knew that I would never, hit a grand slam in the World Series or anything like that. And so that's why I love the keynoting and the speaking, because what other job do you get to go out there, do your thing, and then have everybody clap it? No, I almost said laugh. Clap for you. I've even told Claire, like I've told Claire for years that, someday I think I could still go back. I could go down to LA. It's not that far away. It's like 6 hours, and I could make a go of it, and I could become an actor. And I'm like, not a famous one. I'm not going to be George Clooney. I'm not going to be Tom Hanks or whatever, but I could be like one of those workhorse ones, that kind of works hard and they make decent money. And I actually wrote her response in the book, and I just want to recite it to everybody because it's too good. All right, so this is Claire, or this is me in my book. I confessed to Claire my belief that I could make it in Hollywood as an actor. Not a famous one, but a hardworking one, able to earn a living. She burst out laughing and then mumbled something about misplaced confidence. It gives you a sense for our relationship. So let's talk about, everyone doesn't have to want to be a famous actor, but let's talk about this method and how it works, and then we'll try it out on ourselves. How about that?
That's perfect.
So there's kind of two ways to look at it. One is the time frame. So what we're going to do first is we're going to focus on our lives, our individual lives now in time. Then the next step is to look backward 10 years and see what it was, to kind of see, like, oftentimes people are extremely surprised to see the progress they've made in 10 years. Not always, and that can be hard, and I want to acknowledge that, but that's why we do that. And then we're going to then come back and go 10 years into the future. So that's the one lens through which to look at it. The other is, what are we thinking about, now 10 years ago and 10 years into the future? And there are, again, this is studies and other research and stuff that's been done around this, but there are just four things, imagine that, in life that really impact happiness, right? And they are, in order, your relationships. So, who you spend time with, what your network of friends looks like, romantic relationships, that sort of thing, your family. That's the first one. The second one is location. So, if you are living in a place that you love, that could be different for different people. Like you were just talking about, not in a city, and I'm talking about in a city, that sort of thing. And then third is the profession. So it's what you do every day, most often because you do need to bring in money, right? And then the fourth is what you do for yourself and how you take care of yourself. Okay. So what we kind of have is this matrix. It's 3 time periods and then 4 things each. So if you're following, you're doing this at home, you've kind of got it written down. You've got these 4 categories across the 3 different time periods. And that's what we'll talk about with the end goal to be, what am I shooting for 10 years from now? There's a really, really great set of articles and podcasts. And then this thing you can buy on Amazon called the Remarkable Life Deck. It's by Debbie Millman. She's like an expert in branding and marketing, but she teaches courses at a design school. And one of her most famous classes that everyone signs up for is called your 10-year plan for achieving your dreams. And she asks, more like 25 questions. The idea is that you kind of write all this stuff out, and her experience, having done this for more than 10 years, is that people have kind of manifested their dreams based on this. Mm-hmm. And so, again, one of the many, many things that you can do out there, but I've taken elements of that and some other ones to come up with this strategy. Does that make sense? I mean, what kind of questions might people have? I'm just thinking, based on that description.
Yeah, I think that coming from like NLP training, I don't know if I've actually even shared that. I've been doing a lot of NLP training, so neuro-linguistics programming. And then also, like, you do hear about the manifestations and things like that. And one of the things that is so strong and powerful about your subconscious mind is that when you have that clarity of like what your goals are in 10 years, they naturally, like, your brain just naturally is like, oh, and it's drawn to that. And so it does those things when you're not even thinking about it, so that you are getting closer to those. So I think it's a really cool thing. Like I shared before, like I never looked ahead really. And so now, knowing a lot of that information, it's like, it's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And then I was always like the New Year's resolution and how long can you like stick with it? But it's like bigger than a big scale, So I think that's fun. I think you asked me a question and I can't remember what it is.
So, well, should we try it?
Yeah, let's do it.
We could do it. So let's focus on current year. So year 2025. You can share how old you are or not, but why don't you go first kind of through these 4, and then I can do the same, and then we can go back in time next.
Yeah. So I am currently 34 in the year 2025. Just crazy. I don't feel like I'm that old. I spend most of my time right now with my children, who are very small. They're 6, 4, and 2, and my husband. Obviously, I live in the middle of nowhere, and I am a fractional COO and business coach. But I do take a lot more priorities of my, like, how I'm taking care of myself, not only from like nutrition and working out and, other things like red light therapy. If anyone's researched that, you know what that is. And just little things that I never would have done before. And because God forbid you get wrinkles, like, that's all I'm saying.
So in 2025, I am 49 and a half years old right now, almost to 50, which is so crazy. Which, quick aside, I remember a comedian I saw once who told the joke. He's like, you ask a kid, give me what does a 50-year-old sound like? And they go, I'm 50 years old. He's like, this is what a 50-year-old sounds like. My close knit relationships are my wife of 25 almost 25 years. That's another milestone. And our son is 14 and he is just started high school transition. So challenges associated with that. We live in Alameda, which is a suburb. Not really. It's right near San Francisco. During the years, and 3 months of the year, have a place in northern Wisconsin, which I talk a lot about because it's my favorite thing in the world. And professionally, I am doing. I mean, I've transitioned from what I had done in the past, which I'll talk about in a second. But yes, I am writing, which I love, speaking, coaching, advising, and working with individuals. I think this is something that I'll be able to explain. I've wanted to do that. I've worked with companies in the past, and it's not been as rewarding. And then from a self-care standpoint, boy, I go up and down. I've always been an exerciser, but sometimes I don't exercise as much as I should. And I'll tell you, when I wrote a book over a year and a half, I was not exercising as much as I should, but I'm getting back into it. I'm just trying to practice the things that you're supposed to do. I'm a big sleep guy. Try to exercise, and then I just really try to control my eating from a wellness standpoint. So now let's go back 10 years if you want to do the same thing when you were 25. How about that?
Okay, so when I was 25, so I still lived in the country. I was engaged. We've almost been married 10 years. It'll be 10 years next June, actually. So we were super close to being married. What did I do? Oh, I had just started my career actually at Farm Credit, and I was a lender there, which is hard to believe that was 10 years ago. And self-care was definitely not a priority at 25.
Awesome. So 10 years ago for me, I was 39. It was the year 2015, and still married to my wife, actually still living in the same house. We did have a place in Wisconsin, but it was not our ideal cabin. It was our starter cabin. And our son was, 4, because he's 14 now. And as a 4-year-old, man, yeah, self-care was tough. There was a lot of late nights, early mornings, playing with the kid, being exhausted. I was working at UCSF Health, which is a medical center here in the San Francisco Bay Area, working on a really cool project, but I had a bad commute, like hour and a half each way. And so I was exhausted and working, with my son on the weekends because I didn't do any of that during the week. So it was difficult. I was not taking care of myself at all. And in terms of, how am I doing now versus 10 years ago? Much better now. Much better now. So
yeah, the sleepless nights of toddlers, and I understand. And the attitude at 4 is not something I expected.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I think it's I'm not exactly sure who this is attributed to. I've heard it's attributed to Bill Gates, but it's often said that we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So I mentioned that just as a point to think, like, it's okay to set a big goal or to have a kind of a big vision for what you want 10 years from now. So as we go through the next part of the process, I will try to think about that. See if you want to think about that and figure out kind of what 10 years from now looks like for us. So it's 2035, and you're not as old as I am yet. You're 45. Walk us through these 4 if you would.
Yeah. So I'm still married. I will have a 16-year-old, which almost 17-year-old, makes my heart palpitate a little bit. That's crazy. And a 12-year-old will be the youngest. I will still be in the country somewhere. I don't know if we'll still be in Yuma. I assume until the kids graduate, we'll be here. But definitely in a bigger house than where we currently are. And profession-wise, I'm still working with my amazing clients. I have expanded my coaching on my business coaching side, which I'm actually just really launching in this particular moment. And I am just increasing the number of people that I'm helping day to day, with the different, not only from the business side, but also like implementing my NLP training. And self-care wise, I am still doing the same things. I have almost been doing it for 7 years now. So it's kind of just more natural and, it's a lifestyle. It's not just I have to do it. And it also just brings so much release for me. So I know I'll still be, working out and eating the things to keep me on those goals, but I'm also not afraid to eat pizza and ice cream.
Excellent. So 10 years for me, it will be 2035 and I will be 59 and a half years old, which is crazy. I'll almost be 60. And let's see, so my son will be 24 going on 25. So he'll almost be able to rent a car by himself. And let's see, by then, if we want to stay in the Bay Area, we like the climate, we like the people, we like everything that it stands, that it stands for here. If things go as planned, that will be the year that we fully pay off our home. So that would be interesting, and also pay off our cabin. I definitely will, what I know we will have for certain is we will have that cabin. And I don't know if by then we will have started to remodel it, perhaps, because professionally, I want to keep doing what I'm doing now. I have a 10-year vision for that. I want to do it, though, half the time and twice the money. That's my goal. So I'm looking forward to being, not working for 6 months of the year, working for the other 6, but somehow doubling how much I make. And I'm going to use all the strategies that I teach in my book to continue to move in that direction. And then, I envision my life spending 3 to 6 months here in California, definitely 3 months at our cabin. And then that leaves, 3 months or so, or 6 months to do other things. So maybe we are living in France for a couple of months, or spending autumn in New York City. One of the beauties of speaking is you can oftentimes get gigs that are outside of the country or in parts of the world that you want to go to. And so I intend to speak there and stay there for a while with Claire. That's a high level picture of the vision that I have for my life, and what all of these other kind of subcomponents of the time freedom formula and the time freedom techniques that I use to in pursuit of.
So I think it's beautiful too to look at what your goals are in 10 years from now versus what they were when you mentioned in high school that it was just you just put your head down and do the day to day. So to see how far you've come, and also realize that, you didn't just put your head down and go to that corporate job and in 10 years you're going to be retiring. You've created this beautiful life.
By having us walk through this together, I mean, one, you learned a little bit more about us, so I guess that's a good thing. But secondly, I hope it's inspiring for you listeners to do the same thing, because it's important to do this at the beginning of the process as we start to then implement specific strategies along the way. So I think that's a really good place to leave it. Next week, we are talking about the amazing lifestyle business. Teaser. Now, before you leave, I just want to thank you all for joining us. Make sure you write us an honest review on Apple. It really helps us on the podcast ratings and also rankings, and also to like and subscribe on YouTube. And I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us.